Hello and welcome to this week's Solution Saturday. In this video, we're going to go through question 39 from the Consortium Group 2 2014 paper. Make sure to check out the other videos in the playlist for more work solutions for this paper and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our other videos. The time in Sri Lanka is 4.5 hours ahead of London. For example, when it is 3 p.m. in London, it is 7:30 p.m. in Sri Lanka. What time is it in London when it is 1:15 p.m. in Sri Lanka? We need to approach questions regarding time slightly differently than we would other questions. This is because of the conversion units we deal with time. With units such as centimetres and metres, the units of conversion we use are tens and hundreds. However, with time, we have 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, and so on. In order to avoid mistakes, we can use the column method. In questions like this one, it's best to use one time zone and stay consistent with it, even if the question seems easy. This will become even more relevant in the second part of the question. So here we have two columns. We're going to dedicate one to London and the other to Sri Lanka. We need to make a note that to go from London time to Sri Lanka time, we need to add 4.5 hours. We also need to note down the rest of the information we've been given in the question. For example, the fact that it is 1:15 p.m. in Sri Lanka. The visual nature of this method makes it very easy to subtract 4.5 hours from this time to get 8:45 a.m. in London. Now let's move on to part 2. The time in New York is 5 hours behind the time in London. Bill's journey from New York to Sri Lanka takes exactly 30 hours. Bill leaves New York on Wednesday at 7:45 p.m. On which day and at which time does Bill arrive in Sri Lanka? In this question, we need to consider the time difference between New York and Sri Lanka, as well as the flight time. The column method becomes even more important now that there are 3 time zones. This time we have 3 columns, one dedicated to New York, one dedicated to London, and the other to Sri Lanka. Now we can note down their time differences. So it's 5 hours from New York to London, 4.5 hours from London to Sri Lanka, which makes it 9.5 hours from New York to Sri Lanka. Taking our flight time into consideration, and that's 39.5 hours to be added on to the time in New York overall. So we leave on 7:45 p.m. on a Wednesday. Let's add a day onto our time. That's 24 hours, which takes us up to 7:45 p.m. on a Thursday. 39.5 minus 24 is equal to 15.5. So we have 15.5 hours left. Now we can add 5 more hours to take us up to 12:40 a.m. on a Friday. Now we only have 10.5 hours left. Let's add our 10 hours on first to get 10:40 a.m. still on a Friday. And now we can add half an hour to get 11:10 a.m. on a Friday. So our final answer is Friday at 11:10 a.m. Thank you for watching. We hope you've been able to gain valuable skills on how to approach problems similar to this one. Now don't hesitate to leave a comment or reach out on our other platforms. Check out the other videos in the playlist for more solutions on tricky questions from this paper.